Hey there, welcome back to the Film Fan Club. Sam Carrico here. I finally saw Christopher Nolan's new film Dunkirk about World War II. Let's get into it. Going into this film, I was a little bit cautiously optimistic. Cautiously because if this was, I was thinking, and whenever I told my friends, if this was Christopher Nolan coming off of The Dark Knight and Inception, I would be way more excited than Christopher Nolan coming off of The Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar. Because while those two films were still really good, they were definitely lesser films than the two films that had come before them. But man, I was really underestimating Nolan because this feels like he's going back to his roots. This feels like a passion project for him. It feels like something that he's really wanted to do for a long time. And this was written and directed by Christopher Nolan, which is something that I don't think that he's done a lot of. A lot of times he works with Jonathan Nolan or he worked with David S. Goyer on the Dark Knight films. But this film, it's all him. He directs it and writes it, and it really shows. And it really works here. I really like the structure of the film. They separate it between the land, the sea, and the air. And Tom Hardy plays a pilot. Cillian Murphy plays a shell-shocked soldier who Mark Rylance picks up on a boat. And Mark Rylance is just a guy who's like a merchant sailor who is trying to do what's right, and he's trying to help out all these people because all these people at Dunkirk, these soldiers, they kind of have been abandoned. They need to escape. They need to be evacuated from this beach because it's completely being overrun by the enemy. And finally, it's really nice. It's a nice story about how home came for these war heroes. Home came for these guys who are just trying to fight for their countries, and then the people of the country have got their back. And Mark Rylance is one of those people, and he picks up Cillian Murphy, who's got shell shock, and along the way. And then meanwhile, we follow this boy who in the land storyline, who's just a young soldier trying to survive. And these three storylines, it's a really bold move, I think, to structure the film that way. It's really interesting, although it is a kind of double-bladed sword, because while it is pretty good, some of the storylines are not as interesting as the other ones at all times. Like sometimes we'll go from a really awesome scene with Tom Hardy fighting someone in the air on in the airplane, and then we'll cut from that, and then we'll go to Mark Rylance in a boat with some kid named George, who that kid named George isn't really the best actor. So it is a double-bladed sword because we go from something that's very interesting to something that's a little bit less interesting at times, but also the way that they converge, all the storylines come together really makes it worth it. Christopher Nolan made a bold choice by, other than casting the people that I kind of alluded to before, he casted mostly unknown actors to play these roles, including Harry Styles, who isn't really unknown, but he's not known for being an actor, that's for sure. He does a serviceable job, and a lot of the actors, it's really good because you don't identify or you don't know these celebrities, because, I mean, when I do see Cillian Murphy, I'm like, oh, Cillian Murphy, or if I see Tom Hardy, I'm like, oh, Tom Hardy, but of course, they're such good actors, they, eventually that you lose that and you just kind of get invested in their characters. I think with what Nolan was going for was he just wanted these other actors to be kind of a blank slate, so you can just immediately look past the actors and you can see the characters, and that really works in some cases. It's another kind of double-bladed sword because the actor who plays George, he's not the best actor, and I can't really fault him for that because he's such a new actor. This is probably a new experience for him, I imagine. Also, the writing doesn't really help the character of George, and maybe that's because this is a true story and there's only so much you can do with a true story, but certainly he kind of ties into the fact that not all the same storylines are as interesting at all points. Mark Rylance, though, I think he does a really good job of making that storyline, making the boat scenario and that whole aspect of the film on the sea a lot more enjoyable. He does a great job. I think he does better in this film than he actually did in Bridge of Spies, which he won Best Supporting Actor for, and that says a lot because he does a really good, well, I don't think he actually should have won Best Supporting Actor in that film. I think it should have gone to Sylvester Stallone, but in this film, he does a really good job as a supporting actor, and I think that he should get some recognition, at least some notoriety for it in this film. Tom Hardy and Cillian Murphy both do really good jobs in their roles as well. I really like Tom Hardy's aspect of this film. I think his storyline was probably my favorite because it had the most action to it, it had some great heart, and it had really good payoff, I think, towards the end. It was a really good arc all the way through, and they had just little ways of making the scenarios a little bit more difficult or making it more dynamic for the audience or for the characters, and they got more obstacles to overcome. Nolan does a really good job of making of course, he does a lot of practical effects and a lot of practical sets, so he gives you a really good sense in the way that he shoots it. I forget the cinematographer. I don't know if it was Wally Pfister or not. I believe it was his replacement that he got for Interstellar. I believe the guy from Interstellar who did his cinematography comes back for this film, if I remember correctly. But the cinematography, along with the way that Nolan shoots the film and utilizes sets, just really puts you in on the action. The action in this film is really up close and personal, and the immersive feel really kind of helps with the intensity of this film. It really kind of, he doesn't even need a PG-13 rate, or excuse me, he doesn't even need a rated R rating for this film. It's rated PG-13, but it still feels, you still feel every bit of the brutality of war. This is one of the best war films that I've seen. Not that I'm a big fan of war films per se, as a genre. I just like good movies, and I think this is a really good movie. I think Inception edges out Dunkirk just a little bit, but it's one of my favorite Nolan films thus far. I think it's better than a lot of the other work that he's done. This is a great film. I think you should definitely see it, so I'm going to give Dunkirk 9 out of 10. Well, thanks so much for checking this video out, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel for more content like this. We got a lot of other movie reviews up right now. We just did a bunch of trailer reviews for stuff that came out of Comic-Con, so you don't want to miss that. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well while you're at it, @SamuelDCarico, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again. Have a great one.